As you just heard, my name is Cameron Glasscho. I'm 18 and I'm an artist. I see some of you guys are excited, so who here likes to make art? That's what I like to see. Really? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and ask you what your favorite type of art is, because to me, art isn't just painting. It can be dancing. It can be math. It can be writing too. And it's any method of expression. So.
I like drawing birds and flowers and stuff.
That's very nice.
My sister teaches me how.
Yeah.
I like to cut out snowflakes.
Oh.
Because those are so fun.
That's
I
nice.
actually one time made a cross in the middle once I was making a snowflake.
That's nice.
One time I just made so I cut out this. I got this piece of construction cut paper that was colored, and I cut it into little squares, and I just put it onto my bird, and the bird was just filled with colorful squares.
That's nice. That's a different medium from what I use. Do you know what a medium is? It's a tool that you use to create art. Yes.
Yeah, different. It's like a different type.
Yes. Oh, please. Yes.
I like abstract art.
That's very nice. That's advanced for your age.
I like dance and also drawing people.
That's very nice.
I like drawing people.
Nice.
I like drawing animals and landscapes.
Nice.
I like drawing nature.
Very nice.
I like either doing drawing challenges or just drawing comics.
That's very cute.
I'm more of a realistic drawer, and I like to paint, make clay, and just draw regularly.
Oh, that's very nice. I like all the answers you gave me. I got my start in art through illustrating because I frequently drew characters from cartoons I enjoyed, like Adventure Time, Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with those.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Adventure Time, but the other one, yeah.
Yeah. To me, creation isn't just pulling something from nothing. It's an expression of love, right? Because God created all those things. He created the birds and the flowers and the nature and people, as you say. And God transformed his love into us and nature and all of those things. That ties back to how I got my start in art. I was taking feelings of frustration and anxiety that I had at the time when I was younger, because I was such a worrywart that I would sort of be a little ball of worry all the time. And when I started making art, I found that it was something that I could use to express words that I didn't have for my feelings yet. Does anyone else know the feeling you get when something is just so big that you don't have the words to say it? Yes. That's what tears are for, right? And so art's sort of like crying, isn't it? And it's sort of like dancing, and it's sort of like jumping out for joy. It's all of those things. It's a means of expression, any means possible. So my challenge for you during this memo is to tell you guys to draw what you think God's love looks like to you. I began drawing since I could hold a pencil, but as time progressed and I began developing more complex emotions, as every child has, I began to spend more time in my own little world just creating as much art as possible. But that I was transforming my frustration into that art, and I could make something beautiful out of it. But that art transformed into more frustration, and that's where I transformed it into perseverance. The Bible says, "Blessed is he who perseveres." Have you ever sort of seen a fly hitting a window, and you're just like, why don't you just go around the other way? Yeah. We do that too. We do that too.
That's my screen door.
Yeah. But I mean more in a metaphorical sense, right? Because the fly only sees what it wants. It only sees that there is an outside, but he doesn't know his situation. That's what happened to me, because I enjoy that you guys were admiring my art earlier, but I don't want you guys to compare yourselves to me, because that's what I was doing to myself, and it made art a lot less fun. And you shouldn't have to compare yourself to other people. And that's what perseverance is to me. It's not simply feeling like you have to be the best at everything immediately, or trying to zoom through a subject and feel like that you have to be better than everyone else. You should just be the best version of yourself that you can be, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So when you make art and you start comparing yourself to other people, and it would sort of take the fun out of it, wouldn't it? And you don't have the right to take that from yourself, not at all. I feel like simply expressing the love that you have and the emotions that you have and your love for God through that medium, whether it be dancing, whether it be flowers, whether it be nature, whether you make comics to cope, or you simply just feel better when you're making things. Isn't that what art should be about? But what does art mean to you personally? When you make art, how are you typically feeling?
Distressed. Like distressed.
Mm-hmm.
When I do art, I feel calm.
Yeah.
When I do art, I feel creative.
Mm-hmm.
I feel proud.
That's very nice. You should be proud of yourself. You should always be proud of yourself. You should feel calm when you make art. You should feel calm when a task is complete. Did you have one?
Like when I do art, I feel happy because I know that God was watching over me.
Yeah.
And like when I have bad thoughts, He'll make it better, make a plan to make it better.
Of course. And God gave us the power to create, didn't He? So, my challenge for you is to illustrate what God's love means to you. I want you guys to basically express yourselves as you would, without looking at your neighbor, without looking at other people around you. I want you guys to make art the way you would. So while you guys are drawing, I'm sort of just going to be explaining some of my pieces and the process to you. This one in the middle is my friend Christina. Our initial project was to do a contour line drawing, which is when you make one continuous, yeah, you've done that before? It's when you make,
I've done that.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, for those who aren't familiar, I wanted to say that it was just like making one continuous line and not picking up your pencil. Yeah.
Me and Paul were just
Oh yeah, it is really fun. So I did the sketch first, and then I went over it with watercolor first, so that when I finally went back over it with pen so that she would be more visible, it wouldn't like start blotting out. So my art teacher encourages us to practice with a different media. As I said, mediums are the tools you use to create art. And I like painting on cardboard because it's the paint transfers easily and it's thick, so I can just like lay down nice globs because sometimes I don't like to blend. And so I was like, this looks it's lacking. So I started like cutting holes in the cardboard, and I was like, it would be cool if I could have some sort of effect where the box goes in a bit deeper. And then my friend was like, hey, you should put plants and flowers inside. And so she gave me some flowers, and I started putting them in the boxes, and there's pine straw on the side. And this was actually made it to the final round of the Dogwood Festival. Oh, thank you. This is an auction piece I made for my school. Oh, thank you. I sort of just laid down an initial sketch, and then I started painting with acrylic, which is a thicker paint. Thank you. Basically, how I started was I laid down a sketch, and then I began painting with acrylic paint for the hair, and then I used watercolor paint, which is a thinner paint. I'm sure you guys are familiar. Yeah. I have not.
So what we're doing at school is we get like a paper, and then we put like colored tissue paper all over it, and then it has like, we can do cool colors or warm colors.
I think I've done that before, yeah.
It looks really cool.
Do you go over it with like glue too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done it before. It's fun. But yeah, and then at first I painted this just a pale yellow in the background around the illustrations that I made, and I went over it in pen in my usual handwriting, and I wrote some lyrics down, but I decided that I didn't enjoy the way it looked, so I was like, I should match the background to her hair, and so I laid down like thick globs of paint so it would look more like fire, sort of. That's just what I was feeling at the moment. This piece is one of the ones that I'm most proud of because it was in the High Museum's high school art exhibition earlier in April, and I later gifted it to my dad for Father's Day because he enjoyed the piece so much. I initially began to sketch over it, sketch it in my sketchbook. And once I figured out a design that I liked, I put it on watercolor paper, which is a paper specifically made to hold watercolor properly. And I just basically worked at it, and I layered. It's easier to paint with watercolor when you layer a lot, so you initially paint lighter, and you add more vibrant colors as you progress. So, thank you. So after that, I painted a background in acrylic, and using color theory, I was like, since these are bright, thank you. Since these are bright pastel colors, I should use a darker background so it wouldn't distract so much and it would pop. And I sort of wanted to keep up the shiny theme by adding like stars and gold paint. This was for an album cover project in my digital media class, which is a graphic design class. This is an artist I like. Her name is Vashti Bunyan. And I began carving out this linoleum block with a speedball roller. And when I was done, I just started rolling out ink on cardboard, and I just smushed it down on the stamp, and I like placed it back on this paper. And that's why they're mirrored. That's actually one of my more favorites as well, because I spent a lot of time on it. I actually initially gridded a real life picture of the artist that I drew, and I transferred that onto the linoleum, And then I began carving out blocks using, have you guys learned about negative and positive space yet? Yeah. With linoleum, you have to use negative and positive space. So when you stamp it, the ink is in the details. I actually did this my sophomore year. I sketched this in my sketchbook. I made sort of what we call thumbnails. Yes, thank you. I made what we call thumbnails, which are just parts of the design that I wanted to convey before I could fully paint it. And then I sketched out my finished sketch on cardboard. And I like using acrylic on cardboard, as I said before, because it doesn't dry out as quickly as it does on paper. And so I found that I could just use the paint how I actually wanted to when I did that. And that was just in the hallway in my school for about a month, because we often display our arts just like you guys do at your school. So this was a still life study that I did in my art class. Do you guys know what still life is? Yes. Would any of you care to explain? Oh. Yeah. If anyone wants to explain, you can raise your hand.
Just everyday life that doesn't really have to do with it, but it's really nice.
So we basically wrote a little background on the objects that we used. I chose a little battery lamp that I have and a pencil pouch my friend gave me, as well as my little angel statue that sits on my dresser. And the white writing is so that it just stands out better on the dark background that I chose. And I just decided to choose like bright contrasting colors against a dark background because I really like the way things tend to shine that way. I find that sometimes I make a mistake and I either have to start over and I fix it. And it's okay to make mistakes when you make art because exactly.
I made a mistake with the color and I just decided to splatter.
Yeah, and you'll end up like thinking, oh, that looks better than what I intended. I might be onto something here. But that's what art's all about. It's about perseverance and learning from your mistakes and knowing that it's okay to make mistakes, isn't it, Valerie?
She always says, you're not getting another paper after you drew this.
Yeah.
And then when I asked for another paper, and then she was like, sure, but no.
Aww.
And she said, make mistakes into masterpieces.
Yeah, make mistakes into masterpieces. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, that's also another aspect of perseverance, is not beating yourself up when you find out that something's gone wrong. It's looking at it and saying, how can I make the best out of this? And you often do when you're making art. And I believe that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much.